All right, so for quiz number 7, the review we're going to be doing, remember these last 2 lessons were really calculator intensive, right? We needed you guys to make sure you use your calculator, whether it was Desmos, an online type of deal, or one that you had in your hand to kind of do these problems. Again, tomorrow you guys are going to be able to borrow some from me, but remember, we don't want you guys using just the online stuff, okay? So how do we do basically 25 to the 3 halves? We go right to our calculator, okay, and I'm going to type in 25 to the 3 halves, right? So I'm just going to put a parenthesis, a 25, right? So there's my, I'm just trying to make it look just like the one that we have there. For me, it's a caret symbol. Remember, I asked you guys last time if you have any questions on your calculators as to how to use powers, let me know. Nobody asked, but if you're still confused, make sure you tell me, okay? Now I'm going to put the 3 halves power, so 3 over 2. There's my 25 to the 3 halves. I hit enter and I get 125. So this is very easy to do, okay? There will be some that maybe you might have to rewrite, but these are not meant to be difficult questions, okay? Calculator intensive. I told you guys that when I was teaching this to you guys the last, was it Thursday and Friday, okay? Same with 32 to the 4/5, right? It's all about putting it into your calculator right. So I'm going to use my calculator and write 32, and then I'm going to raise it to the 4/5 power, okay? So to the power of 4 over 5. So there it is, 32 to the 4/5 power, and then just hitting enter, and it should give me an answer. So there it is. Okay, so this stuff is not meant to be difficult to do, very straightforward. Punch it in correctly, you should be good. Now we do have a couple of things that look a little different. For example, this one. So some of them are already set up for you so that you can do the work really quickly, okay? Some of them you're going to have to rewrite, okay? So if you recall, I'll kind of put a little note over here on the side. If you have an I to the X to a power, the way you can rewrite that is by writing X to the power over the index. Okay, that's one of the properties that we talked about, right? You can rewrite your radical into a power by just rewriting it based on the index and the power given. So notice, for me, on number 3, the power they gave me was a 4th power. The index they gave me was a 3, right? So here's my power, and here's my index. Okay, the power is 4, the index is 3. So I'm just going to rewrite this problem right here, the cubed root of 8 to the 4th power. I'm going to write it as 8 to the 4 over 3. And now I can use my calculator. Okay, at this point I can use my calculator to do the work. So I'm just going to go back over here, 8 to the 4 over 3, and hit enter. And I get, well, a 16. So there you go. So just using my calculator, I should be able to figure that out. But I do have to rewrite it, okay? I do have to rewrite it. Now, there are some calculators that you can type it in exactly the way that looks, and you'll be able to get your answer. But again, it really depends on what kind of calculator you have. Okay, some of you guys with nicer, newer calculators might be able to do that just by punching it in. Some of you guys may not. So you may have to rewrite it into a fraction. So let's see one more of those things here. So the square root of 121 to the 3rd power. Okay. Now the index on a square root is a what? A 2. Yeah, it's going to be a 2. So it's right there. Okay. I know they don't write it, but that's what it's supposed to be. So remember, you're going to write your power divided by your index. That's your fractional power, so 3 over 2. You just got to write your number on the inside. So you're going to write 121 to the 3 halves. Okay, 3 over 2. Okay, 121 to the 3 over 2. And then at that point, you use your calculator. So I'm just going to go to the calculator and type in 121 to the power of 3 halves. And I get 1,331. So there's my answer. So in tomorrow's quiz, you guys are going to have questions like this, okay, where they're going to expect you to be able to do this with your calculator. I mean, you can do this without your calculator, but it's a little bit tougher because if you look at this problem right here, the square root of 121 is 11, but then they're going to want you to take that to the third power. So you're going to have to multiply 11 times 11 times 11, which is 121 times 11, right? So you're going to have to do that by hand, right? So that's the reason why they told you guys, use calculators, help yourselves out, right? So you could do it by hand, but most people don't want to. That's why you're allowed to use your calculator for this. Do you guys have any questions so far on the first 4? I'll kind of go back. So it started off with these types of questions where it's just a number to a fractional power. That's all it was. And then after that, we got radicals in there. So stuff like this. You guys okay with that? Any questions, comments, concerns? All right, so let's move on. So then we start getting into these problems. Now, if you guys remember, we talked about this before. And basically what you're supposed to do is if you have like numbers and letters to a specific power, you can distribute that power to each term, okay? So, and it doesn't just have to be letters, it can be numbers and stuff. But if you have numbers that are multiplied inside of a parenthesis and there's a power on the outside, you can distribute that power inside. So that's why we get x to the p, y to the p. So the same thing is going to happen with what I have up there for number 5. I'm going to rewrite it like this. 16 to the 3/4 x to the 4th to the 3/4. Now, what do you do when you have a power raised to a power? You multiply, thank you. So x to the n times p, right? So that's going to be for the variable portion. The first part, 16 to the 3/4, I can actually do that on my calculator. So let me do that. 16 to the power of 3 over 4. Whoops, I messed that up. 3 divided by 4. So that comes out to 8. So I'm going to write 8. Okay? But over here, I'm going to have to multiply 3/4 times 4. So that's going to be x to the 4 times 3/4. All right, 4 times 3/4, you would put that in your calculator if you'd like, or if you want to do it in your head, that's fine. That's just x to the 3rd. Okay, just so you can see 3 times 3/4. I'm just going to do it on my calculator. I'm sorry, I put 4 times 3/4. My apologies. 4 times 3/4. Okay, that's just a 3. So that's why I got x to the 3rd. Because 4 times 3/4 is 3. Now, some of you guys may have canceled. You might have said 4 canceled with 4, so only the 3 remains. So you could have done that. You didn't need to use a calculator, but again, calculator is an option, so I'm just showing you guys what it looks like if you're using a calculator. Okay, so let's do one more of these, and let me check to see how you guys are doing with these, if you have any questions. So number 6, 100 n to the 4th to the half. So remember, separate this, right? Rewrite it in a separate form. So 100 to the half n to the 4th to the half. Okay? So I have those two things set up. Now 100 to the half, let me type that in, 100 to the half power, 1 over 2, that's 10. So I'm going to write 10. Now n to the fourth to the half is n to the, remember, 4 times half, right? 4 times, bless you. So, no problem, 4 times half. What's 4 times half? 2. So it's just going to be 10n squared. And there you go. Forgot to put the answer here in the box. Okay, so I know they look a lot more complicated, but just break them apart into like little tiny problems, right? And work on each one individually. Again, you do have your calculator available, so it should make things a little easier for you, if you don't want to do it in your head or by hand. Any questions on 5 or 6? Again, these have to deal with variables and numbers, not just numbers. All right, let's do number 7. So 4p to the 6th to the half. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time, okay? I'll give you about a minute, minute and a half. Try to get this one done. Let me pause the video. So one response that we got was that the answer was 2p to the 3rd, which is correct, okay? So all you had to do was rewrite it as 4 to the half, p to the 6th to the half, right? 4 to the half, if you put that into your calculator, so 4 to the half power, that's basically square root of 4. That comes out to 2, so we get a 2. And then this would be p to the 6 times half, and half of 6 is 3, so 2p to the 3rd. Now you can put that right here, 6 times 1 over 2 on your calculator, just to kind of double check it if you want. So there's your power of 3. Okay, so 2p to the 3rd. Okay, now they are going to give you guys some negative powers. Okay, now just so you guys remember, negative powers makes you move a number from numerator to denominator, or from denominator up to the numerator. It makes it switch. Okay, so I'll just put this really quick. If you have x to the negative p, it becomes 1 over x to the p. Just a quick reminder of a property that you guys are supposed to be aware of. Okay, so that means that 16p squared to the negative half is the same as writing 1 over 16p squared to the positive half. That's the same thing. All right, so just flip it. That's all you got to do, is just flip it. Now, once you do that, do the same thing that we've been doing, only that this is all going to be in the denominator, right? So I'm going to write 1 over 16 to the half p squared to the half. What's 16 to the half power? Remember, a half power is like a square root. So yeah, it's 4, right? 16 to the half is 4. Again, you can always do that on your calculator just to double check, right? That's a 4. I'm going to write 1 over 4. And then p, my power times the power. What's 2 times half? It's 1. So I'm just going to leave it like that. 1 over 4p. And that's my answer. Let me kind of write it a little cleaner here. So 1 over 4p. So it's not like it's much more difficult. The first step is just different, right? You just have to flip it. So let's do this one. Let's flip this one around. Okay, so 8p to the 6th to the negative 2/3. So step 1, flip it over. 8p to the 6th to the 2/3. Okay, once you do that, break it apart, right? Give that 2/3 power to the 8, give the 2/3 power to the p to the 6th, and just simplify. So it should look like this. 1 over 8 to the 2/3 p to the 6th to the 2/3. And now go to your calculator and start punching this in. So 8 to the 2/3 is 8 to the power of 2 over 3. That comes out to 4. So let me write that down here. 1 over 4. P to the, now I got to multiply 6 times 2/3. So I'm going to put that in my calculator. 6 times 2/3. That also comes out to 4. So that's going to be a power of 4. And this is my answer. I think that's it, yeah. So for you guys, tomorrow you're going to have these types of problems. Now, I am going to give you a little quick insight, okay? There are going to be like 3 extra problems that we didn't cover, but they're going to look kind of like this. Okay, so this is just like a little bit extra, okay? These will be on the notes. I'm going to put them up a little later. But if I tell you like 3 radical 2 plus 5 radical 2, what should my answer be? 8 rad 2. This is what we did last week, right? So they might make you do something like that. They might make you do something like this. Where you're like, well, wait a minute, I can't add those together. But radical 27, I can rewrite it as radical 3 times 9 plus 4 radical 3, right? This is what we did last week on our quiz. 9 has a nice square root of 3, so that would go outside and become a times 3, right? So you're going to end up with 3 radical 3 plus 4 radical 3, which comes out to 7 radical 3. So the only thing that's kind of tricky with this is going to be this part right here. Okay, like I said, I think you're going to get 3 of these types of questions tomorrow. So don't forget about how to deal with radicals on their own, okay?